So the supplies you'll need today are as usual. This is the last time we'll be doing pencil sketches. So next week, hopefully everyone will have the oil pastels. But this week we'll just use pencil, eraser, and paper. Last week we did a skull study. So the skull, this time we're going to draw an actual face. So let's apply the knowledge that we learned last time. And we can go slowly because a face is really, it can be very hard to draw a face if you haven't done portraits before. So once again, we're going to take our pencil and kind of looking at the image on our screens, this reference here, I can zoom in a little bit. Let me see if I can zoom it. There we go. Looking at this image here, we're going to landmark, firstly, the outside, the edges, you know, and just make note of these different points. So let's go for the general overall shape of the head. Looking at this image, the face itself is quite round. So if I took an, hold on just a second. If we took a marker and pinpointed where the tops and the sides of the head are, it's almost a square, but it's quite tall, only a little bit. So it's almost a square, almost a perfect circle, but a little bit more oval. So once we have the overall egg shape, can start using the reference lines.
Jane.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're seeing the same thing, but we're seeing the top of the head cut off. Is that supposed to be the head?
Yeah, the image unfortunately does not have the head.
Oh, okay.
I can make it look like there's something up there.
Oh, okay. No worries.
No worries. There, okay. Just pretend there's something up there.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't just end there, yeah. It's just the image, unfortunately.
No worries.
Yeah, so kind of take the lines. Imagine a line. This is the center line that goes down the face. And immediately after we have the center line, you're going to start with I would start with the brow line. So where the eyebrows start. So on your image, you can sketch out the center line. And the brow line. And the distance between here to the top of the head is quite large. It's much taller than it looks. So don't be afraid to put the brows a little bit lower. And then working from bigger shapes, the next thing I would put down would be where this cheekbone indentation is. You can't see it very clearly, but over here is where the cheekbones start. After the cheekbones are down, I use this as a reference for the other parts on the face. So for example, I know the eyes are sit relatively above this line. It almost copies it. The angle, if I can make it a little bit more clear, this angle is about the same as the edge of the eye. But don't worry about the eyes just yet. We're gonna do the nose. Reason being, it is right in the center of the face. And if we have the center, then we can relate and compare the other elements. So for the nose, it's about halfway between here and here. And this is where the bottom of the nose is. If you remember from the skull drawing, the nose is a triangle. So I'm going to do a little reference here. You can imagine this triangle, the nose, coming down from a little bit above the center.
Mày có bà quá đó.
Để cho
Mày đó.
I want to make this a little bit lighter because we're not going to draw the skeleton. We're drawing the nose, so the flesh. So indent the nostrils. All right, and now the nostrils are down. Let's compare the edge of the nose to the eyes. So if you took a straight line from the edge of the nose and brought it all the way up, it meets the corner of the eye right there. And wherever the nose ends, that's where the eye will start. And this is a portraits are very difficult, so please take your time.
Jane, I have a question.
Yes?
Is it always the case that where the nose ends, that's where the eye starts? Is it always the case?
It's not always the case. It's when it's a standard. So for example, some people's eyes
Okay.
can go in a little bit more. But yeah, you can always move it in or out if you prefer.
There's just a standard, but it varies from picture to picture too.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Mhm.
okay. Thanks.
Yeah, there's a lot of variance in the different techniques. Some people say, oh, you split the face into, you run the line halfway across here, and that's where the eye is. But for this face, it's a little bit above the eye. So things shift
Mhm.
with different people. And then now I'm marking the top of the hair or the hairline. So imagine the edge of the hair coming around like a circle. Just lightly sketch. And then the next step, before I even add the eyes, will be to add where the eyebrow connects with the nose. It's almost like a corner. It is a corner. I'm just marking the side of the face where the eyebrows end. A lot of these marks I'm making right now, I will be erasing later. So I'm making them very light. I used to have a lot of trouble with the nose, especially the nose. So if you think of the pattern, not a pattern, the shape of the nostrils, obviously there's holes for the nostrils, but you can connect those with a little, I see a boat under. And then on the side, the boat wraps around and goes up. It's almost like a W or a wave. But this end, the ends on the side go in. And you can even dip this down a little bit. Okay, now I will sketch in the eye socket. And the eye shape can also be quite difficult. So if you break it down into straight lines, you can imagine it's almost like brackets, and then the top part is flat, it comes back down. It's like a geometric shape. And of course, there's the eyelid, the fold that comes above the eye. In this case, we have an epicanthic fold, which is where the eyelid folds over the lower lid, or actually the flesh on top of the eye. So here it creates a fold that connects to one point. Because on most Western or European eyelids, they have an entire secondary fold. So on Asian eyes, it's usually, it connects to one point because it's covered by this flesh on top. But we're gonna use this today. One, two, three lines on the top, and then 1, 2 lines on the bottom. I'm erasing that one because I feel like the corner could go up more. So then same on this side. The eyebrows are just as important. So here, the eyebrows kind of blend into the shadows, but we still want to make sure that we know where the hair starts and ends. So same with the nose, end of the nose, matching up with the inner corner. The eyebrow, it moves around a little bit more, but it's in the same area. So if I took this line and drag it up there, eyebrow starts somewhere in this area, either left to the right of this line. And what I'm doing all the time is sketching out the edges of the shadows. And for shading, I just hatch. So hatching is making your lines go in the same direction. And a little side note while you're sketching, there's different lines you can make. For example, you have very light lines that are very thin, right? All these thin lines. There's also light sketch lines. When I hold my pencil on the side, these are good for shading. And there's also very dark etched in lights. For all these different lines, we use them on different parts of the sketch. So for example, I would use the dark lines on the outside of the face once I'm done the sketch. Right, I'll leave these dark marks for last. For the light marks, very tiny thin marks and sketch marks, to use them accordingly. If I sketched out the side of the face, it would be fuzzy. So use those lines accordingly. underneath the eyes, the under eye, the eye bags are they're slightly dark. So we need to shade that just a little bit. The little shadows underneath the eyeballs. And for the mouth, usually the center of the eye lines up with the corner of the mouth. Ooh, what happened? As you can see here, the center of the eye actually goes outside the corner of the mouth. But we can still use this line to tell ourselves, okay, well, the mouth is not that wide. Now, where is it on it longitudinally? Somewhat in the center, but I would say a little bit above. I'm marking the top, middle, and bottom of the lips. Top, middle, and bottom. The curve of the lips is similar to the nose. So we have the two corners of the mouth, and there's a slight dip in the middle. And you have to just connect those lines with an upwards. So it goes up and down and up. The top lip echoes that. Up, down, up, and down. And the bottom one is just round. So the center dips down just slightly, a little bit, and then the corners go up and down. There is a major shadow underneath the lips and where it hits the chin. So this shape, the shadow over here, is somewhat this shape. And also fill in the top lip. Goes up, down, and up, and back down. Of course, I like to take my eraser, make the edges a little bit softer because you don't want subtle features to be too dark. Okay, and you can shade it in. The top lip is almost always darker than the bottom one. There's a little shadow over here in the center. That's where the nose connects with the ridges on the mouth. So you can imagine a little teardrop shape. There's some shading on the side as well, but you want to leave a little bit of white space to show that the ridge is curving up. And shade or hatch in the direction of the shape. So if it's going down, shade it down. The next step, we'll be shading in the cheekbones and the side of the face. Taking the pencil and just following that angle, looking up and down. It almost creates a triangle where the face is. And then it slowly fades into the rest of the face because cheekbones are really sharp, but on the side of the jaw, the face is relatively round. So it's sharp here, round here. To make this shape a little bit clearer, and if you want to draw the neck, it is almost as wide as the face, but a little bit thinner, but not too thin. The common mistake is making the neck too thin, and chances are it might look like a comic, which is fine. Necks are much thicker than we think, especially on more masculine faces. So let's keep chipping away at the side of the face. And for the contour or the edge of the face, you can make a few reference points for yourself. So there is a corner here below the eye, and the next point would be a little bit below the middle line of the lips. So I would put it here. So this side, it would just be one straight line. And then coming down, this curve is a little bit more ambiguous, a little bit more round, but it does connect to the chin. So the first edge connects with the side of the lips. Chin here is pretty flat. And this side is much rounder because this head is tilted a little bit to the left, so it will not be completely symmetrical. So the next point would be next to the ears and also bottom line of the nose. And we can etch in the hairline, so where the hair is. And we can worry about where the rest of this hair is later. Let's go on to the other side. So take your time, mark out the side of the face. So for the edges, I used this type of line, very dark. These dark edgings. So instead of very light, I made it very dark to show that this is the end of the face. As for the ears, let's mark the top and bottom of the ear. So the top part of the ear, it goes between, on this person's face, the eye and the eyebrow. So somewhere in the middle, we have the top of the ear. Maybe a little bit lower. The bottom is almost on a perfect line with the bottom of the nose. So where you put your nose, imagine a line running across. That's the bottom of the ear. Same on the other side. The ear on this person is about the same width as the eyes. To compare it, the length is about the same, or you can even compare it to other things on the face. Keep in mind the hair does take up some space. So we have a little corner here, and then that's where the ear starts. Ears are shaped as such. It's a top curve and the bottom curve. So this is one component. And the other component will be this. And on the inner corner, we have that element. So all of these connect together. It'll make more sense when you put it on the face. So let's try it. On this ear, there are two major shadow groups. So the first group is that one over there. And the second group is this weird curvy shape on this side. So if you can see those shadows, the ear will become more realistic. Unless you just want to draw it like this, that's fine too. Let's try. There's also a smaller shadow just wrapping around the edge. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of those. Next, I will establish the shadow on the neck, which here just looks to be a little triangle. Then I shade downwards. Can also give the impression of clothes, so really roughly sketch in the collar, the shadow of the collar in the corner. And now I will move into the hair. So as this image doesn't have the top of the head, you can either not draw it, or you can imagine the top of the head. For this purpose, I will imagine the top of the head. So let's say same thing we did with the jaw, we will do to the top of the hair. The hair has quite some volume. I really look for those corners and bends in the hair. And before we draw any of the hair strands in the front fringe, we have to make note of where the hair is coming from. So for this person, I think his hair is coming from the back, maybe from this dot. All the hair is coming forward. So the motion, direction, the hair, it's spreading across the shape of his head. So for the hair on the side, it's pretty easy to imagine this hair goes that way, and this hair on the right goes to the right. But what happens to the hair in the middle? Well, it just goes straight down. But there's also some parts that go to the left, to the right, just for variation. I like to start with the outline of the hair, because when I'm shading the hair, I don't go into detail at all. So notice there's a section of hair goes here, and there's another section, and another section. Just make it really random, because it is random. And where is the light coming from? Probably up top, a little bit from. So that's where the light is coming from. And if you imagine very simple circle exercise, if the light is coming up from the top, the highlights will be up here and the shadows will be down here. So the same shading technique can be applied to the hair. Want to keep the top parts lighter and the bottom parts a little bit darker. So let's shade the dark parts in first. I'm just going to go in one direction for the first layer. So once the general shading, the first layer has been established, you may go into the finer details. And by that, you can just draw strands that go, pretend every mark you make is a hair. So I'm adding one piece of hair, one piece of hair, one piece at a time. But not too much. If you don't want the attention on the hair, then don't put too many details in it. You can just leave this part alone. This reference is pretty easy because there's not too many curves or curls in the hair. But if there are curls, before you even add the hair details, you would look for the more specific shadows. For example, this one, there's a little bit of a shape in there. Like that. when drawing the little wispies at the front, rule of twos or having two lines together always looks better than one line alone. And you can vary this. I'm going to slowly start erasing the reference points.
Are we going to draw the eyes?
That's a great question. I was gonna say something. I usually leave the eyes for very last because personal preference, I think when I'm sketching, I don't want the eyes to look at me. So once I'm done, then I add the eyes. But I was gonna do the eyes just now. So yeah, you're right.
Okay, thank you.
So whenever you're ready, we can move on to the eyes. So the eyes are kind of the soul to the person. I like to move. Let's just add a little bit more shading to the under eyes because why not? There's a little line for the eyelids. Yeah, so if you started the eyes already, great. We're going to start with the iris now. So the iris in the eye socket is almost, for this one, a covered circle. So it's kind of a half circle, and the top part is hidden. This part you can't see, but you can see this part. And a good rule of thumb is never take up more than half the space with the black. So I like to start with the pupil. So as you can see, every iris, there's a pupil and then a light source. So for up here, the light source is at the very top. Let's just worry about drawing the center dot. So we can't see it on his eyes because his eyes are dark, but we can imagine that, it's not entirely in the center. It's a little bit to the right. It's a little bit scary. And then to the right one, it's a little bit more in the center. And by center, I mean when I'm comparing it, comparing the corners. Okay, and lightly sketch out the semicircle. So for his iris, the top of the iris touches the top, but the bottom is completely round, which means we can see the bottom of the iris, and it's not covered. All right, and then do the same thing on the other side. And once you've sketched out the shape, make a note of where the highlight is. So the brightest little white dot. And then we're going to sketch in or shade in layer by layer. So the first layer will be relatively light. I like to go across in this direction. Of course, jump from left to right, so you're not putting too much time on one eye versus the other. You can make it a little bit darker. Now I'm etching out where the eyelashes are. And normally the eyeballs are not completely white either. So I'm just going to lightly shade the inner corner. See, this is pretty dark. And just shade the top of the eye whites.
Jane,
Yeah,
are you using a 3B?
I'm using a 3B. Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
And you can keep looking at it, maybe stand up and look away from it. Just really compare reference. Maybe there are some parts that could be darker. For example, the shadow above the eye could be a lot darker. So I'm going to make it darker. And the center part is also shaded because the light casts a shadow underneath the brow bone. So this part, you can shade it just lightly across. Maybe add some details to the eyebrows by holding the pencil like this, because now we're doing details.
Your picture is so nice, Jane.
Sorry?
Your picture is so nice.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Can I send you a picture of my son and you can draw that for me?
Sure.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
But yeah, we're done now. So
It's really nice.
Yes, very nice. Mine is ugly.
no. Must be
May,
Uh-huh.
you're here, right? You see
Yeah.
that the teacher is using two different types of eraser. Jane,
Yeah.
can you show the two types of eraser?
Yeah, I have a two. Yeah.
You have both?
Yeah, mine is top, like this.
What? One is the nettable one, the dark one. This is the nettable eraser, and you use that for highlights. Do you have that?
No.
I can give you one. I have that.
I just have this one.
I know you just have the ordinary eraser, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to
Oh.
continue to do art, you will need a nettable eraser.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and-
Sure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sorry you have to come again, but yeah, if you want, I have one.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Jane, what's the topic today?
You could just call it face study.
Okay.
Face study.
Face study, yes.
Face
hence the
study. Yeah, it's difficult face study.
It was very difficult.
We
Yeah.
need more practice.
Every day.
You can watch the video over and over again and then use somebody else's picture, and like the technique is still there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.